Hey everyone, my name's Vinny, this is Brent, and welcome to the Dog Owners Podcast. Today's episode is going to be on socialization. All the ins, all the outs, everything in between, and everything that you need to know. So let's get started. Before we get directly into socializing your dog, there are some prerequisites that you need to have nailed down pat. So Brent, I'm going to pass it to you here and let's talk about these prerequisites.
Yeah, I think the very first prerequisite that we have to do is get to know who our dog is, what stage of development that they're in, maybe what their past was, maybe what experiences they lack so that we can be sensitive to those when we're socializing. And it's going to be important that as we get to know our dog, whether you've just got a new puppy or whether you had a rescue dog for the last year and a half, you got to know their isms. And those isms, whether they're insecure or whether they're super bold, are going to be really important for us to kind of come up with a socialization plan overall.
Are you saying I shouldn't take my brand new rescue right to the dog park on day one driving?
Yeah, that's like a common mistake people make is one, a lot of people think that socialization has to do with play immediately, right? And so in this episode, we'll go into like true socialization, what it means, and elaborate on that. But I think it's important that we understand how to know your dog. Second thing we got to look at is body language. And you guys don't have to be body language experts. This isn't something where you need to take a whole course on body language, but here's just real basic guidelines, and I'll help me elaborate if I'm missing anything. We obviously know what a hyper-curious dog looks like. This dog is moving towards objects, sniffing them, head held up high, body posture is confident, and maybe there's even a tail wag, right? So you might see this in your dog. Well, this is a relatively easy dog to socialize because they're hyper-curious. Then you might see something in the middle. You might see a dog who's a little unsure. They're still moving forward. Maybe head is low, tail is a little bit low, but they're still curious. This is a dog who needs a little bit more time to adjust, a little more time to feel things out. And then you're going to see the other extreme, which is the dog who is completely scared and trying to create distance. So if I have a dog who, head is low, tail is tucked, and they're trying to create distance between them and the object you're trying to socialize them with, that's a dog who's in defense mode, right? And that is a dog who needs a lot more time and a lot more support and a lot more confidence building in that scenario in order for it to become normal for them, right? Did I miss anything?
No, I think you hit the nail right on the head, brother. And knowing which dog you have gives you a game plan for what you need to be doing, but also it tells you another few things. When you have dog one, the dog who is overconfident, those dogs can be quite annoying. So when you have that dog who is super pushy, wants to greet everything, that's going to be overbearing for a lot of dogs. And this is why we will end up going to our next prerequisite, which is leash training and awareness. We have to have the ability to tell our dog to come this way, to stop, and etc. We'll get into that in a second. The other thing is, we have to watch all of the signals from our dog because some of our dogs may change pretty quickly depending on what they are socializing with. When you have a dog who's overly confident, who all of a sudden something happens and their tail starts to wag really low like it's sweeping the floor and they're showing a lot of submissive behaviors or unsure behaviors, we have to be aware of that so we know, hey, I can't push any further right now. And it's not uncommon for dogs to go from one extreme to the next and vice versa for submissive dogs to all of a sudden crack out and be like, dude, I'm ready to fucking rock and roll right now. So, just be aware of those shifts, because you don't want to push your dog to a state where you create what I call a mental scar, right? Because if we socialize our dog to the point where we scar them, Brent talked about in a previous episode, which I loved, when you pause a Netflix show and you come back to that same spot in the show. When you create a scar, you're going to come back to that spot more frequently. And that's going to be something that's quite dangerous. So knowing your dog's body language, what they're telling you, and most importantly, what they're telling the other person or dog who may not understand your dog at all is very important. And knowing your dog does take a little time, Brent. Especially if you get a new rescue, it takes you a hell of a lot more time. And just be cognizant of that. So don't throw them into the fire right away. And you're going to socialize your dogs with things that you 100% trust first in those scenarios. People that you trust, places that you know, other dogs that you know through and through. But Brent, you want to move on to leash training and awareness?
Yeah, 100%. So leash training and awareness are like basic handling skills. Some of the common mistakes we see is we see people micromanaging all their dog's movements, constantly restraining their dog. So in essence, like the handlers are always keeping their dogs from socializing for, fear of their dog misbehaving or doing something naughty or whatever it might be. And so when we talk about leash training or leash awareness and handling, it's have the basic comprehension that, okay, my dog's on a leash. This leash is a safety line. My job is to control proximity towards things, like how close I get to stuff is my job as the dog's coach or trainer. And then also making sure that I have the ability to grab my dog, remove them from a situation if I need to, but trying our best to make sure our dogs don't feel constant tension on the leash. I can't, tell you guys all the times that, we have a dog with reactivity. Well, guess what? 100% of the time that dog is pulling on a leash when they come in for the evaluation. So the main thing is learning how to walk your dog on a loose leash, learning how to take charge of your dog when it's absolutely necessary, learning how to use a leash to redirect the dog's attention or direction of movement. That's going to be really important. How about you, man?
Yeah, no, you said it right. A lot of times we're restricting the dog physically, but mentally they are across the street, and that's where all the frustration comes from. And then when we have the dog that is constantly pulling, one, beyond the fact that we're rewarding the dog for pulling, they are in such a crazed state that when they get to the next task, they're already in a really bad state of mind. That's not how we want to socialize with a dog going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, because you're going to end up exploding on whoever or whatever you're seeing next. So definitely keep in mind, you do need to train your dog how to walk next to you, but also even more important, just how to walk on a loose leash without dragging you on a 6-foot line.
Yeah.
Um, one quick note about that, Brent, make sure that you are not in a gray area. I know this isn't a leash training podcast, but often I find dog owners in a gray area of between making their dog heel and then allowing their dog free. So we're giving 2 feet of slack, our dog's 2 feet in front of us, and they're pulling the shit out of us.
Mm-hmm.
It's either A, put your dog in a heel where you want them next to you walking, or B, give your dog more slack, because the more that you restrict them physically, the harder that it's going to be for you. So you should revisit videos that we put out and or our other podcasts where we talk about figure eights and keeping your dog in a 6-foot radius for the free walk. But that is a huge prerequisite for socializing because everything is going to be done on leash,
Yeah.
typically, right?
Yeah, unless you're like indoors or in an enclosed yard with like a puppy, right?
Yes.
Another thing that goes in with leash handling and leash awareness is getting comfortable with setting limitations on a leash, right? So this just means if my dog decides to pull, that I need to set, okay, that's far enough. That's a limit. You're not pulling 6 feet 3 inches. You can pull to 6 feet, but you can't pull to 6 feet 3 inches. Teaching our dogs, and I'm always thinking of puppies when I think of socialization, but this is also for rescue dogs, is just teaching our dogs like, hey, you're with me right now. As Vinny said, if the dog's brain is across the street, before I go across the street to show my dog that stuff, I need them to understand you're not going to pull me. You're going to be on this loose leash, and we're not going across that street until this leash is loose. Right. And that you might need some hands-on training to learn how to set limits on your leash. But once we can get our dogs to kind of be cooperative on a leash, then it's way easier to take your dog places and expose them to things and keep that loose leash vibe as you're doing that work. So that it might entail learning how to give a little pattern interruption, like a little correction if you need to. And then now we're cooking with gas. Right.
100%, dude. 100%. And that brings us to correction, redirection, and rewards. We should have an understanding of how to redirect our dog if need be. Maybe the other person or dog that we're meeting is a psycho, and we definitely don't want to correct our dog because they're not doing anything wrong, but we do need to snap their attention back to us. Also, as Brent was talking about, limits. With limitations, when you're going to set limits, especially if you set it in stone, not sand, there has to be corrections when those limits are crossed. That doesn't mean our dog's getting hit with a baseball bat. That just means that, hey, listen, if you continue to do this, there is going to be a time where it's going to be uncomfortable for you for a half second so you can learn that's not the appropriate path that we're going down. And then rewards, right? And that doesn't always mean food.
Yeah, real quick before you move on to that, just for the audience, the word correction, guys, some people use it as a euphemism to mean like punishment or leash correction, which is true. Like sometimes it is that. But the word correction literally just comes from when my dog is incorrect, I have to wait till they are correct before I do the thing or give them the reward or give them the opportunity, right? So something as simple as like, moving my dog back into a position. That's technically a correction. It doesn't have to be with force or with a mean attitude. Just you're just correcting the dog and telling him, "Hey, you should have done this instead." So sometimes repetition is a correction. Sometimes luring your dog back into a position is a form of a correction. So when we say correction, sometimes it's physical, and sometimes it's just making sure the dog does the thing we want them to do before we allow them to do the thing that they want to do.
Yeah, it's huge. Even add one thing onto that, Brent, at the end of that. Having a good release word does help a lot.
Yeah, totally.
So if you're going to go meet somebody, allowing it to be the dog's decision is not always in our best interest. Instead of our dog checking in with us, looking at us, and us going, free. You can
Mm-hmm.
now go interact with said thing.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be You should really have a good release word for all things: going out the door, to eat their food, to come out of the crate, to go say hi to somebody, to go sniff the grass, whatever it ends up being. But it really does make a difference if it's your decision and you're allowing the dog to do it versus the dog saying, "Hey, I want to do this, so I'm going to do it now." And that's where a lot of that physical restraint, mental frustration come from, because our dog doesn't understand it's time or it's not time. That's that gray area.
Yeah. Next thing we got to talk about are redirects. Redirects are usually verbal cues that we use to hijack the dog's attention. So if my dog is fixated on something, if I say like, "Hey puppy," or "Hey buddy," or I might even use the dog's name. If I associate that redirect with food, I'm going to get a lot better results to get my dog's attention. But as we said earlier in leash training, there are going to be times when maybe you say the dog's name 2 or 3 times, and I have to make the dog redirect because he's in this trance and I need to snap him out of that trance. Well, that's where the occasional leash tug or the leash correction is going to come in handy. So you have kind of like positive redirections where we train the dog ahead of time to respond to foods, and then you have physical redirections where you have to use your leash and like knowing how to do that and being comfortable with doing that.
Yeah. All of that comes from the leash training. If you spend time teaching that to your dog, it makes it easier to take them in your neighborhood, to the local park, wherever.
100%. And then the last thing we got to talk about is we talk about rewards. And usually in the dog training world, when we talk about rewards, people think cookies. And cookies are a form of reward. Like you could totally have some kibble or some snacks in your pocket and reinforce your dog. But sometimes, guys, what the dog finds rewarding is not necessarily what we think is rewarding, right? Sometimes, yeah, my dog appreciates the cookie that I give him, but sometimes the reward could just be like, now you have access to do the thing that I told you can do. Now we give our dogs freedom. Now we give our dog access. Now we give our dogs praise. Now we give them the opportunity. And these are what we call real life rewards. And so when we're training dogs, when we reward behaviors, we're in essence just giving our dogs what they wanted as long as they did something that was appropriate for it. Cool? I
I
think
dig it, dude.
that's all our prerequisites. So if you guys have these prerequisites, I'll just recap them real quick. Number one, know your dog. Know how to read basic body language. Are they moving towards? Are they a little unsure? Or are they moving away? Right. And that'll help you make better decisions. Learn basic leash training and handling skills. Don't be shy to give your dog a correction if it's needed. Really develop strong redirection skills, and then make sure that we're rewarding with the right things, because you're going to hear these principles a lot if you've ever done professional training, but people accidentally reward the wrong things at the wrong time and they develop the wrong behaviors. So making sure that your dog gets access to do stuff when they do the right stuff. Ultimately, this is really hard to do unless you have the intention to do it. Right. So here's a couple caveats to this. Socialization is something that takes time. It takes planning. There's no such thing as socialization in like 2 minutes, right? You're not going to socialize your dog with another dog in 2 minutes. So a lot of people try to socialize dogs on walks. Not going to work. Your dog is probably going to say hi, bye, but they're not actually going to learn anything social. So if your dog is shy with something or scared of something, or you want to teach the dog manners around your guests, plan on doing this for about 10, 15, 20 minutes, because it's going to take time for your dog to go, I get what's expected of me here. And always remember, guys, socialization has nothing to do with play, partially, but it has more with how do I act socially. And in order to act socially, you need to have social skills. And ultimately, these prerequisites are teaching our dogs basic social skills so that we have influence over them, so we can coach them and keep them safe.
Yeah. Really think about that, though. Play is a portion of socializing, but it is not the end all be all. And that is what we often get wrong. is that,
Mhm.
oh, in order for my dog to socialize with whatever, they have to be engaging, they have to be playing, they have to be doing this, and that is not entirely true. That is just a small piece of socializing your dog. It's also important to understand that different dogs require different paths, and we're going to try our best to lay the right pathway for you listening, depending on where you're at. Because if I have a puppy, I'm not going to do the same thing if I have a 5-year-old rescue that I just got, or if I have a 5-year-old dog I've had since a puppy, but I never socialized. All of these do require different paths, as does a dog with different temperaments as well. Because as Brent alluded to earlier, if my dog is wanting to greet, if my dog is kind of curious, or if my dog is straight fearful, obviously we're going to have a different pathway throughout that. And if you do have that last dog, the fearful type dog, we did break that entire type of temperament down in episode 3. So I highly encourage you to go listen to that.
Yeah, episode 5, actually. Episode 5.
Fuck, we're
4 or
flying.
5.
Yeah,
Anyways, we have a nervous dog episode. You guys should check that out.
yes.
So, Vinny, I know you just got your puppy Crunch, and from what I know he was a little insecure when you first got him. So this is actually a great question for you. What were some of the things you had to do with Crunch, knowing that he was insecure?
Yeah, 100%. You have to set it up. So I need to set up things that I know will be successful. So the only people that he would greet at the beginning are people I knew I could, one, control. Like I need to tell them exactly what to do so they don't fuck this up, so they don't create a mental scar, so that the next time he goes to somebody, he's unsure. And a lot of that looks like, hey, I'm just going to let this puppy come up and sniff you. He's going to come up. He's going to sniff. Once he's done sniffing you, if he stays with you and wants to hang out, I want you to crouch down. I want you to pet him gently. I want you to talk to him in a soothing voice. I don't want you to be over the top because that's going to frighten him. And through time, with him meeting enough of the right type of people, now he can start to handle people who are not that person, right? So if they're fearful or if they're over the top, well, I've seen enough people. I know how this works. I get this. And actually, Brent, the hardest thing, believe it or not, was socializing him with children. Okay.
Wow.
Because we had a mental scar happen. So I went to the bank. And I take my dogs to the bank all the time. I have the greatest bankers, which is a huge portion of socialization, which we'll talk about. Brent, this dog comes in the car 3 days a week. Like he sits in the car. Huge fan of dog mode, right? He comes in the car, he comes with me, but we went to the bank. He was having good times with the banker, and there was a 9-year-old-ish autistic kid, okay, in the bank who just ran straight at him screaming, and it sent him down a path, and I immediately knew it. I was like, "Fuck. Like, this is not gonna be good." I had to stop the kid. "Hey," I had to tell the parent, "Hey, do you mind, calling him away? We're not gonna leave this place right now, though, Brent, because now this place is gonna be tainted, and this is gonna be a scar." So I sat on the bench, I hung out, I asked him a few of his simple commands that he knew. He knew, he knows touch, sit, down. He's only 4.5 months at this point. So this is like a detrimental time for something like this to happen,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
So it's important that hey, we're going to sit here, we're going to chill out, we're going to get some rewards. And I end up going back to that bank every week for the next 3-4 weeks because he did have this, like, I'm not sure, until he wanted to get treats from the bankers. And you set it up so that your dog is wanting to go forward. I want to greet them. And this is very true of dog 2 and 3 that Brent went through, the dogs who are semi-curious or the dogs that are fearful. Dog number 1, the dog that wants to go everywhere, wants to jump on everybody. Those specific dogs need more limitations. They don't need more coaxing. They don't need it. Uh, the humans to be slower. They need us to be a lot slower. They need to be slower. And a lot of my socialization was just setting this up, having people follow a game plan of, hey, keep it chill. When he's ready, go down and pet him. And then I do use play as a huge portion of socializing with him. He has such a high play drive that if I give anybody a tennis ball or if I give anybody a tug toy, it doesn't matter if there's a nuclear war going on. That dog is locked in. I want that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and that creates positive experiences where he looks forward to meeting new people. And yeah, and it's constantly setting it up for success, right? You always ask yourself, is this going to be beneficial for my dog? And then also, what is my plan B? What is my other option if this is not going the way that I thought it was going to go? I think if you put those two things in your head, it'll be a lot easier. But I do want my dog to get as many places as possible so he can see as many things and just get used to it. If you get a puppy, you want to try to do this as much as you can when they're young. You don't want to wait until they're 8, 9 months old. Get it hammered out while they're very young. I want to get my dog used to meeting as many different types of people and having good experiences. You know, I'm not going to be PC here, brother, right? I live in an area that is predominantly white.
Okay.
So something that was important to me was, hey, I need my dog to see black people because a lot of people go, oh, Brent, I don't know if you hear this or not. You're in LA. There are often times where I go to somebody's house and be like, I think my dog's racist. No, your dog's not
Oh
racist.
yeah, we hear that all the time.
Yeah, you live in a bubble. Your dog has no idea that people can have darker complexions. So because they don't understand it, they bark. It's not like, oh, I don't like that. Nah, dude, they have to meet people with gray beards. They have to meet people with hats on. They have to meet people with baggy jeans. They have to meet children. So I want to try to set all of that up the best that I can. So my dog has a good memory of this. So the next time we come across it in random life, it's not surprising. But socialization takes intention. You have to literally set time to go, I need to accomplish this. I need to do this. And then lastly is the dog on dog, but we'll end up getting to that at a different point because I went as
Yeah,
a
yeah.
usual tangent.
Yeah, let's go back to different dogs require different paths. So you did a great job kind of breaking down if I have a dog who's more on the nervous side, a little dog who's a little bit more sketched out and fearful, how to break things down step by step. And those dogs take more work, right? They need more confidence building. They're that little kid who goes like, I don't know if I can. Oh no, I don't know. I'm scared, and those kids, to some people, they might be like, this is frustrating. You need so much work. But here's the cool part, guys, is once you build confidence is like a snowball, right? It's a little bit. And then
Yes.
it's a slow process, but little by little, that snowball gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And before you know it, you've created a monster and now you have to put rules on the monster, right? Like that's the gist of it. Go ahead.
You fucking hit the nail on the head, dude. Like, cause you're right, but you are trying to create the monster with that type of dog. Can I tell you one last thing I did with Crunch, which I thought
Yeah,
was
yeah,
genius,
please
which
do.
is now turned into a problem? Uh,
Okay. You created the monster.
yeah, I created a monster with a fanny pack. So I was a big fan of letting Crunch, because we have classes on the farm all the time and everyone has a fanny pack. And I would never correct him for trying to get to a fanny pack. Like I would love when he was like, oh, dude, when I was a young pup, nervous pup, going up to people, nudging their fanny pack, be like, what the
Yeah.
fuck is in here? Give it to
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
And now it's at a point where it's like, okay, don't ever do that again.
Yeah.
Right? It's
Yeah.
obnoxious.
Yeah.
You will eventually have to stop that. But yeah, you hit the nail right on the head. Tell me about maybe I have a dog a typical golden retriever, crazy. I want to
Well,
greet everybody.
so yeah, I wanted to touch base a little bit on my dog Rocket, who is actually the medium dog, like in the middle, right? He was a
Okay.
little like nervous and suspicious. He wasn't super fearful. He was confident, but a little nervous and suspicious. And he turned out to be such one of the sweetest, most social dogs that I have. And honestly, I didn't have enough time I didn't socialize him the way I socialized Dynamite. Right, my dog, who's my best dog, that is so easy. But Rocket was, he had a little German Shepherd in him. So when he hit puberty, he was like, "Who's that? I don't know who that person is. I don't know who the pool guy is. I don't know who any of these people are." It's interesting because you could see when some temperaments of dogs, you can see like they are curious, but they're also suspicious. And so if we don't get that under control at a young age where we give them context or support them or let them know who's friend or foe, it's very easy for them to be like, you're a foe, like you're an enemy, get out of here. And all it takes is, a pool guy getting too close with the pool skimmer, or all it takes is a gardener getting too close with a leaf blower, right? And now the dog is convinced you're the enemy. So something as simple as, again, putting him on leash, number one, controlling any outlandish things that he was doing, right? If he was barking his head off, put him on a leash. Hey, bud, you're fine. Run out, relax, right? If you guys follow Vinny, he does a lot of the enough videos. So in essence, like teaching my dog, you need to calm down right now. Okay. So getting my dog to regulate and understand, like, daddy's here, you're going to be fine. But then once he calmed down, taking it one step further and going out and exposing him to what they're doing to the pool and just sitting on the porch and letting him go and smell the pole and letting him go and see these people, and then doing that every time my pool guy would come by, right? And before you knew it, he would still bark and he'd be a little sus, but we'd go out and then he'd get a little bit more comfortable. And little by little, I would tell my pool guy, like, hey, man, go give him some food. And he'd give him some food, and then we just leave. Like he'd take a little bit of food and we'd leave. And then he'd come next week and I'd do the same thing. And little by little, my dog, he'd bark when they show up, but then he'd look out the window and be like, it's just a pool guy. Who cares? Right. And so I want to go into something real quick that's in this section. It's important for us to pick and choose kind of who the inner circle is for socialization. I think a big mistake people make is they want to socialize their dogs with everyone and everything at first. And that I would say that's like a step 2 kind of stuff. Step 1 is socialize your dog, to Vinny's point, with people you have control over or people that the dog is going to see on a regular basis. So your mom, your dad, your brothers, your sisters, like your friends that come over regularly. When you think about like child development, we learn our social skills from our parents, and then it is reinforced by our siblings. And then it is double reinforced by our extended family, our aunts and uncles and grandmas and grandpas and things like that, right? So having that inner circle of people that you guys socialize your dogs with, it's just important to have that down pat as well, because that serves as the foundation for, all right, now this is a stranger. You may not see them often, but what if we practice with those 5 or 10 other people? And then we can teach the dog he has a reference point on how he could behave in those scenarios. Now, to go into that dog who's extremely excitable and social and has no personal space, this is where it's important for us to kind of revisit that idea we talked about, where socialization does not mean play. Now, typically, the average person, if they see a dog who's super excited to see them, they get super excited to see them back, right? And you'll see this big eruption of excitement from both the person that's getting jumped on and by the dog. And this is like this perpetual cycle that's going to create, like, I see human, they get fucking stoked to see me, they get super excited. And again, when you're interacting with strangers, this is going to happen all the time, right? But if you have your inner circle, you can teach them, hey guys, just don't rile them up real quick. Just calm them down. And if you guys have those people who you know will not listen to you, you bring your dog out on a leash or you put them away, right? You put them away or put them on a leash and just say, like, you're not going to say hi to my dog. But you have to control those things. And it seems like a lot of work in the beginning, but this is the lot of work that saves you guys from big headaches later. Like, I never had to formally teach any of my dogs not to jump on me. Not formally. Like, I never had to make a drill out of it, right? It was just, maybe 3 times a week you tried to jump on me. I said, don't do that. Maybe they tried to jump on a guest. I said, don't do that. And probably cumulatively, I taught my dog Rocket to not jump maybe 8 times his whole life, but that was it. It was never actually a drill. He just learned. So I say all that because that inner circle and is important for us to lay the foundation of what we expect. Anything you want to add?
No, I think it's when you said it only took Rocket about 8 times to get the point. I don't think people really, 1, believe, or 2, understand how to do that.
Yeah.
Because you mean it when you say, don't do that.
Yeah.
Right?
And
It's
also
like,
I don't act like an idiot around my dogs. And most of the people that he would meet also don't act like idiots, So there's a benefit there, but yeah, continue with what you were saying.
no, you just hit the nail on the head. It really is as simple as, we're just not going to live that life. We're not going to do that. And you are rewarding everything that you allow. Right? And if you start it young and you allow it once or twice, man, you've got a habit pretty quick. My point being, you can stop a lot of the bullshit pretty quickly if you're willing to put your foot down, and then that will also transcend to the next layer of people Brent is alluding to. When you do meet new strangers, what your dog has practiced with you will happen with them, and you got to keep that in mind when you're living with your dog.
Yeah. Just to reiterate, guys, this whole episode, you guys may or may not have heard this stuff before, because it's not really socialization. It's such a process. You would need like a 2-3 hour video on this, right? So we're going to try and give you like wrap it up in a 1 hour podcast. But remember, socialization is the development of social skills applied in real life.
Yes.
So it's develop social skills first. Develop the ability to influence your dog. Develop the ability to safely fail and rehearse things with your dog, with your family and your inner circle. That is the safest, most secure, and most streamlined way to socialize a dog. Get it out of your head that socialization is constant exposure, constant play, constant touching and interaction. Because, even when I was a young dog trainer, that's the stuff I was told, right?
Uh-huh.
And you learn through experience where you go, there's actually a downside sometimes with some dogs. You can actually get over socialized, where you can actually get dogs who are a little like, oh my God, I'm going to get pet again. Oh my gosh, another one. Like everyone's trying to touch me, right? Like it sometimes socialization, if done wrong, can have the opposite effect with certain dogs. So always make sure that you're a vigilant parent and that we're optimizing for making sure our dogs have a good association with what they're doing.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Brent, in another video, we talked about neutrality, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't have a dog that is neutral, we're not going to have a dog that's going to have a positive association with anything. So make sure that before you're trying to worry about your dog having the greatest experience of all time, they first just need to be balanced. They need to be, this isn't a bad thing. And as
Yeah.
long as we're there, we can easily get to this is a positive thing.
Yeah.
But don't try to take your nervous dog for a one-off outing and go, oh, you're going to love this. This is going to be, it's like, dude, just get your dog comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah, and you guys, we grew up in a time of dog training where the word balance was used for everything. And I wish there was a different word for balance, but it serves its purpose. Balance is like, it's like Goldilocks, right? Like the porridge is a little too hot, the porridge was a little too cold. Balance is when the porridge is just right. And the dog is like, okay, this is cool. All right. And that's always what we're trying to. So neutrality, balance, those words get interchanged a lot. But that's the goal. So last thing I want to talk about with different types of dogs, different approaches, is you guys might have a dog who is now reactive. They are currently reactive. And now our objective is, well, how do I socialize this dog? Well, I would say the same prerequisites we talked about are extremely important. However, the thing we need to add to this, if you already have a currently reactive dog, is you need to become hyper aware of the triggers that make them reactive. And you need to learn how to use proximity and make proximity your best friend. Because I would say your dog has already proven if something gets too close to them, they can't handle it. So what we got to do is find that distance that they can handle and little by little work our way forward. When you guys have a reactive dog, I don't expect you guys to fix all your reactivity and socialization through this podcast, but this is where it would be important for you guys to find a competent trainer to help you guys. Because if your dog is currently reactive, they are already telling you like, hey, something is wrong. Like my perspective on this is wrong. And so the more you do it and expect a different result, you're just going to develop a dog who really hates what you're trying to socialize them with, right? But usually these dogs are a little bit older, usually if they're this reactive. Every now and then I'll deal with like a puppy who's like 6 months old, who's extremely reactive. Put that dog on a puppy cycle and teach him a little bit of boundaries, and now he's fine, right? But when I have a dog who's like 2 years old, 3 years old, a rescue dog, or a dog who's just gotten away with murder his whole life and now is having a reactivity problem, this dog has practiced getting out of control regularly. This dog has practiced having tantrums. And so not only do you need to know your dog's body language and know how to control them and know redirections and corrections, as we talked about in our leash reactivity video, but you guys now need to understand the triggers and learn how to use proximity. And over time, with the right protocols, you guys will be able to build that confidence. And as Vinny said, build that neutrality, build that balance perspective for your dog to have in the real world.
There's only two main variables with a reactive dog, and that is distance and intensity. So when Brent talks about proximity, what he means is how close can I get to where my dog is comfortable, right? It's a little stressed, but comfortable enough to work through it. And the intensity of the trigger is what is going to determine my distance. If let's just use another dog as my example. Well, I don't want to practice setting up meeting other dogs that are also reactive. But that pretty much guarantees your dog's going to be fucked.
Guaranteed.
Yeah. So this comes back to something we talked about at the beginning, is setting it up. You have to find dummy people or dummy dogs that I can socialize my dog with correctly. But Vinny, I don't know anybody. Hire a competent trainer, go in a Facebook group. There's a million ways, right? Fuck, go on Bumble. I don't care. But
Go on Bumble.
yeah,
Do you have a dog?
find a way to meet the person or dog that you need to meet in order to take your dog to that next step. And finding dummy dogs is helpful. I know we talked about this before, but finding those dogs that are calm and relaxed and allow your dog to actually comprehend what another dog is or what another person is. But you got to set it up.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Any final thoughts on that?
I think do we need to touch on anything on older dogs? Yeah, actually, one quick thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Socialization does look different at a different age, right? So with a puppy who wants to explore more versus every now and again, Brent, I get a client who's like, man, my dog loved meeting new dogs. And now he's like 2.5, 3 years old, and he doesn't love meeting other dogs. And I asked him, hey, how old are you? Right? 40. How many new friends are you making right now? Realistically, how many new friends are you making at this stage in your life? And that is common for some dogs to be like, you know what? I'm at a stage in my life where I'm not reactive. I just don't want to meet that many other dogs. And you have to know the personality type. Like if you have a dog like that, okay, cool. We won't meet dogs who are overbearing. We're just going to meet the dogs that we know and potentially dogs who have good energy with me because it doesn't matter how many times you try, but if you put Mentos in a Coke can, you know what you're going to get. Right? So you've got to make sure that the energies are compatible. Brent talked about the energies compatible with people. Sometimes people who come into your house just don't listen. Perfect. Put the dog away. Sometimes you can tell the other dog isn't right for your dog. Walk away. Before we fail, walk away. Know when to advocate for your dog. And I hate that because all dog trainers say, advocate for your dog, advocate for your dog. What does that look like? Walk the fuck away.
Yeah. Cut your losses. What I see is sometimes people approach socialization with this let's see what happens attitude. And if you guys are approaching socialization like that, just understand the risks you're putting your dog in. Very quickly, if we put our dogs in enough situations where something bad happens, very quickly your dog's going to feel they can't trust you. And I know that's weird. You're like, but I give them all the cool stuff and I do all this. Well, I want you guys to imagine if your partner constantly puts you in compromising situations, like how many times is it going to take for your partner to be like, no, I don't want to go. No, I don't want to. I don't want to say hi to this person. No, I don't want to go to that party. You know what I mean? So you guys have to think of it from the dog's perspective as well. And one of the cool things that I've learned through socialization is if my dog feels super safe and secure, and I'm a good handler, and you hear the word leader a lot. I'm a good leader. The dog knows that I'm like protecting them. I can actually keep my dog pretty juvenile most of their life. Like I can keep my dog's personality very youthful and young and curious and playful because daddy got it under control, right? And when we see dogs who are like they have to grow up really fast, you know what I mean? Some of these dogs are like, I see some shit, bro. Like the dog across the street, like they walk around like they're Vietnam veterans, constantly head on a swivel, and they're like, it's like the dogs, they've been through shit, but they haven't really been through shit. They just have never been in a relationship or an environment where they feel completely safe and secure, and so they have to learn to be that way. And this is me a precautionary tale for you guys to just this is what happens when you don't properly socialize, when you're not advocating for your dog, when you're not making sure that you're intentional about socialization and you approach things with this let's see what happens kind of vibe. And those are hard things to fix in a relationship because the dog in essence has to regain trust in us.
Well put.
All right, guys, we're going to go over Vinny's favorite model right now. This
is a model that I taught Brent about a few weeks back. And this is the double EI model.
The double EI. Yep.
Double EI. It is expose, explore, interact. I actually love this model. I like it so much that I'm going to let Brent explain it.
Perfect. That's funny. All right. So here's the exposure, exploration, and interaction model. So exposure is what we talked about. It's just something to keep in the back of your mind. It's a rule of thumb to just remember, expose, explore, interact. Okay. Exposing the dog, again, is just getting the dog to be neutral, showing them new things, showing them new environments, introducing them to a dog. Just because there's a dog there doesn't mean they have to say hi to the dog. That's premature. Just let them get used to the presence of the dog or the person or the thing. When we see our dogs have reached some level of balance or neutrality, now we can allow that dog to explore. right? Now we can let, as Vinny was saying with Crunch, letting him go sniff someone, tell that person, just leave him alone, just pretend he's not there, and letting that dog's nose kind of lead the way, and letting that dog feel that they have a sense of agency over what's happening. Now, the key to agency is your dog has to understand how their behavior affects your behavior, how the decisions that they make affect what happens to them. And so if my dog feels that if I go up to sniff someone and, oh my God, he tried to touch me, well, that's a really good way to reduce the dog's desire to come and sniff and say hi to things, right? So when the dog is exploring and nothing bad happens, doesn't necessarily mean something good has to happen, just neutral. Something normal happens. The dog gets more excited about exploring and sniffing that fanny pack and maybe licking that hand. And maybe the dog now all of a sudden is like, hey, what's your name? What are you about? Now, as Vinny said with Crunch, you can allow the person or the dog to interact with your dog, right? But we've kind of gone through these 3 different stages of like checklists. Like, okay, dog's neutral, check. Okay, dog's exploring and he's curious now, check. Interaction, cool, check. Now let's run this through with like a super excitable, playful, rambunctious dog, because like insecure dogs make sense because everything kind of gets slowed down when the dog is insecure. So seeing like this natural step-by-step progression makes sense. But if I have a fucking dog who is pulling on a leash and is like, let me at him, I want to fucking say hi, right? What does exposure look like? Okay, I'll give my 2 cents, Vinny, you give your 2 cents just on exposure. Okay. So if I'm on a leash and my dog wants to say hi to that dog or that person, for me, I need to teach that dog, hey, we don't pull on leash, number 1. Number 2, we're going to settle down a little bit because you're up here and I need you to be kind of down here. So in this scenario, I'm teaching my dog what state of mind he needs to be in before I even let him go say hi. Right now, this might mean I might give a little leash correction. This might mean I give a redirection. This might mean I get the dog to focus on me and engage with me so that he can calm himself down. But I'm not moving forward until I can get those things from my dog. What do you got to say about exposure?
It's funny because I just want to talk about the whole process, because before you even went to this, in my mind, I went through, as you were explaining that nervous dogs will go through this natural progression, the overexcited dog skips every step possible.
Yeah, go straight
Right?
to
It's like,
interaction. Yeah, yeah,
it
yeah,
is a half a second between expose, explore, and interact.
yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah,
there now.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So now it is your dog. So now it is your job to not slow down the environment, but to slow down your dog.
Yeah.
So now you're saying, hey, listen, you got to take in what the hell's happening here. And typically that looks like knock this off, right?
Yeah.
Stop pulling on the leash to get to what you're trying to get to. And if you can do that, it gives your dog time to comprehend exactly what's going on. Because I want my dog to take a deep breath and look around and go, yeah, I see that. Yes, we're close, but I wasn't released to go see that thing. I think that is the first and most important thing is, hey, you don't get to what you want just because you want it. You got to teach your dog some limits, and that will help immensely.
Yeah. So next we go into exploration, right? So if I have a super excitable, social, reactive dog, let's say I calm him down on the leash and then I give him a word. I say, okay, let's go explore this guy. Okay. Now, if I release the dog to go explore and sniff and say hi, and this dog all of a sudden goes from 0 to 100, my job is to reset, calm that down, come back over here. We're calming it down. I might give a correction. I might just start from the top. You want to say something?
Yeah, dude. But what you said there is a gold mine. Bring your dog back and do it again. Right? It's like it's okay to reset. Right? It's okay to say, hey, Nana, come back over here. Let's go back into a sit. Let's clear our head again. Let's try again. Like there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. But often people feel so bad about saying that when they're trying to interact with a person. But I got to tell you guys something. One of 2 things are going to happen when you're doing this. If you're doing this with someone you know, it's easy. If you're doing this with a stranger, I don't want to. Listen, if it's that important, call your dog back. If they are like, oh, I'm not up for this, fuck off. Get out of here. You're not helping me. Right? But you have to be willing to 1, tell your dog what's necessary, and 2, tell this person, hey, listen, don't pet the dog when he jumps up. But I don't mind. I do. I really do. So you set a limit, knock that off, come back here. Now let's try it again.
Yeah, reset and start from the top. And again, this is training. Training involves repetition. Training involves micro improvements and progressions. So you might be doing this 4 or 5 times with the rambunctious dog, and you might have to get more and more serious if the dog's not calming themselves down or relaxing. Okay. So what does success look like in the exploration phase? So let's say with people and with dogs. If I release my hyper social dog to this person, I want the dog to at least not be at 100. I want that dog to be at maybe like 70, 60% of his energy. Because if my dog's at 100, I know he's going to do something stupid, right? So it's my job to know my dog's nature, my dog's isms. And I need to make sure I can still influence my dog if I'm going to let them explore and interact with something, right? Because God forbid my dog is so hyped up that I can't referee them anymore, right? And this is one of the things that you guys have to understand as dog parents. Your job is to referee your dog. You are the dog's coach and referee simultaneously, right? So, and sometimes you swap the hats on or you wear both hats at the same time when you're socializing. So make sure that your dog is being what we would be considered polite, right? So with a person, any intrusive, like what's the word? Like anytime the dog is not respecting personal space and boundaries, that's a great time for you to say like, that's wrong. Don't do that. So if the dog is jumping on another dog or constantly trying to mount another dog or being super pushy with their muzzle, totally your job to say, hey, don't do that. If your dog is jumping on the person or really being super demanding and scratching and pawing at them, your job is to set a limit on that, right? So in the exploration phase, it's like you can go say hi to people, but you can't fucking jump on them and be a fucking psychopath, right? So these dogs are actually a little, can be harder because they take more effort from the owner to regulate that dog's exploration of this person. Okay.
Yeah, that middle state of explore, your test dummy human should be doing the same thing as they're doing with the nervous dog as with the overexcited dog to try to, you're taking one dog from up high and bringing them down and one dog from down, bringing them to the middle. You are telling this person, hey, I need my dog to explore you without you interacting with them. Because if you immediately release the dog and they go, oh my God, well, we're going to be screwed because we know our dog. We know they're jumping or they're going to be mouthing or they're going to be pulling at something. It's like, tell the person, let my dog explore you, right? And as the wise and great Caesar said, right?
Yeah.
No
No
touch,
touch, no talk, no eye contact.
It's not offensive when you do because you're Mexican as well. Yeah. But it is very important that you coach them. Hey, just let them go. Oh, I don't mind. I do. I want a very respectful dog. Please cut it out. And then, Brent, when that dog does show us, hey, I can explore without being a nuisance, we can finally go to what?
Interaction, right?
Yeah.
So now with my decoys or your dummies, right? The people who you have control over and you're guiding them through it, you can let them actually look the dog in the eye and like pet them and touch them. But again, our job is still we're coaching and refereeing. So again, going back to the reactive or not reactive, but the rambunctious dog, this hyper social dog, those types of dogs, you know, they might take that as an invitation. So time to jump, right? Time to freak out. Now, all of this type of socialization becomes easier if the dog has rehearsed these limits and boundaries with you. So if you let your dog jump all over you at home or all over your family, well, of course your dog's going to freaking fail 100 times in these social interactions. Remember, manners start at home. So if your dog doesn't understand not to jump on you and the family, it's going to be almost impossible and slightly embarrassing and slightly socially awkward.
And
If you
unfair, dude.
Yes.
Unfucking fair to the dog.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's like this dog has seen one picture its whole life, and then all of a sudden you think it can switch, and it's totally unfair.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So that is our exposure, exploration, and interaction with nervous dogs and with rambunctious, excitable dogs. Okay.
Yeah.
What else
That
do you
was
want to
great.
talk about?
Well, let's just touch a little bit on socializing to different things, right? Because we've talked a lot about socializing dog to human. I think we've kind of knocked that one out of the park. But I want to talk about dog to different animals, which I believe is important, dog to environments, and dogs to triggers. I'll actually take dogs to environments for 200, please.
Go ahead.
Uh, it is important to get your dog to see a lot of different things. So if you live in suburbia, you want your dog to also see city life. And if you live in city life, you also want your dog to see all the other things that are not in the city. It's funny. I live on a farm, Brent, as you know, and you live kind of in the middle of bumfuck nowhere as well.
Yeah, exactly.
You have a lot of people coming over. It helps, right? Like It really does help. If you live in isolation, it is hard to socialize your dog. But you want to show your dog the opposite too. You want them to get used to it. Well, first time I took Crunch to DC, I was like, dude, this dog is not a city dog. Never seen it, right? He was 3.5 months old, 4 months old on our first trip down there. But it's important to show them different pictures and go at the dog's pace. Hold on. Actually, let me reword that and don't edit this out. Go at the dog's pace for the nervous dog. For the opposite end of the spectrum, make that dog go at your pace. Make sure we are constantly bringing our dog back to the middle ground, either pulling them down or slowly picking them up. But you want to show your dog different shopping plazas, different parks, different church parking lots, whatever it ends up being, and go through the same process. Hey, when I pull into somewhere, put my windows down, allow my dog to sniff, allow my dog to settle down, take your dog out of the car, take a deep breath. We're in no freaking rush. Let him pee, let him, sniff around, figure where they're at. Okay, let me ask you some things to do so we can come back to you're going to check in with me now. And if you go through that process, it does make it easier to get into new environments. If you have hey, this is what we do every single time, that to me makes my life a hell of a lot easier. Make sure you guys are taking time to show your dog new places, new things so they can get used to it all. So nothing that you ever come across in life is, oh my God, it was this big of a deal. Now we've seen that, dude. And honest to God, Brent, if you start this when they're young,
Way easier.
it's a game changer. COVID was great for me, great for you, terrible for dogs. People just stop taking their dog places and they stop socializing. But that to me is what socializing my dog with different environment looks like. It's not just going to Lowe's as much as I do love Lowe's. It's going into the city, it's going into parks, it's going into every type of setting that you can imagine and taking your time, going slow, not rushing through it. You're not going there to shop. You are going there to socialize your dog. What about dog to dog? What are some tips?
A couple things I want to say on environment real quick before I move on from that. I will also say this, right? We talk about intentionality, and in my brain, I just thought about an extreme, like a person who's like super intentional, who's like everything is like a session and everything is like focused and everything is. So I do want to say when you're socializing with environments, try your best to just be normal. Right. So I will say, like, when you're interacting with living creatures, like, you got to be focused and locked in because there's things that the living creature might do. There's different variables, like different shit will happen. It might surprise you. You got to be paying attention. When you're in an environment, just try and be normal with your dog. Freaking play with them, do some obedience, like just rub them down, see if you can get them to relax in the parking lot. Like just, check your texts, like do normal shit because I think sometimes I've seen clients they're too engaging with their dog,
Overtraining.
overtraining, and specifically for environments. Just at some, well, actually, with all forms of socialization, at some point, reach this level of just being normal. Just do what you would normally do in that level. Like once the dog has found homeostasis or neutrality, I want you guys to just be normal, be yourself. Like you don't have, like at some point you can turn it off and let the dog just kind of like soak it in a little bit. Yeah, don't overtrain.
I like it. I
Cool.
like it a lot.
So what was the next one you wanted to know about?
Well, let's go dog to dog.
Yeah.
If I have a dog and I want to socialize them with other dogs, what does that
Yeah.
look like? What are some things I could do to make it easier?
Yeah, I mean, all the prerequisites are important to have. So that way, at least you can control your side of the street. In order to safely socialize with other dogs, you guys have to think, do you have a decent read on other dogs? Reading basic body language. Does this owner even have control over their dog? Because I will opt out of letting my dog say hi to anyone who does not have control over their dog. Right. And
Repeat that one time. It's so important.
I will opt out of letting my dog say hi to someone's dog, no matter how friendly they are, if I don't visually see that person has control over their dog.
I mean, that's a fucking tagline.
Yeah.
It really is. But do I want my kid socializing with some kid that is out of fucking control? No.
We
You
have to
don't.
pick our dog's friends for sure. And especially when like it's slim pickings, right? Unless you're going to a dog park or a daycare or a play date that you've coordinated with your friends, it's slim pickings. Like we're picking dogs, like literally strangers. Like we're picking dogs who are strangers to our dogs that we may or may not ever see again. So your ability to read the situation needs to be up there. And if you guys lack skills in reading body language, then, go to those places where at least people vet some dogs. have some friends with dogs and we'll start with them. But a lot of our dog's social career is really contingent on how much influence we have and how good we can read the situations, right? So learning how to read dog body language, I think every dog owner should learn. And you guys, again, don't have to be pros, but you need to see what combinations of body language signals are like good, bad, negative, like positive, and kind of understanding those basic things. I think one day we'll make a whole series on this, maybe a video series. That might be
Foreshadowing.
something. Foreshadowing. Yeah, we'll do whatever you guys want. Just text us and we'll produce it. Me and Vinny like to produce things. What do you want to talk about with dog to dog?
Yeah, when you're socializing your dog with other dogs, like Brent talked about, pick the right dog, right? But some advice that I'll give you is know when it's time for you to tell your dog he's being a dick, right? So it's okay for you to be the one who's setting limits because the other dog doesn't know how to. So, like if my dog tried to hump another dog and the other dog's looking at me like, what the fuck is going on? I'm gonna grab my dog by the scruff and go, "Dude, knock that shit off." Like, that's not how we do that. And
Yeah,
that might be a good time for me to go back to, "Why don't we come over here and take a little break? Why don't we go into a sit and just take a breath before we go back to our interaction because you're just not ready." And vice versa. If I have a young dog and another dog corrects my dog, I'm not gonna overreact, especially if my dog was being a dick, right? And that's why it's really important to pick and choose your dogs wisely because they can help. You shouldn't rely on other people's dogs to train your dog, but they should be able to help. So, for instance, if I take my dog to another dog in the neighborhood who I know really well, and my dog's being a little overbearing or too pushy, and that dog goes, "Oh," I'm not gonna go, "Oh my god, let's leave." No, dude, that was fucking vital. Like, my dog needed that at that moment. And don't overreact, and it's just n like, dogs have to communicate as well. Some dogs don't know how, those dogs we don't try to meet. Like, those are dogs we try to stay away from. But the dogs that do know how, it's important. And I think it's really important that you try to meet older dogs, younger dogs, and everything in the middle, because you do want your dog to see, how do I engage with a dog who's 4 pounds? How do I engage with a dog who's 150 pounds? How do I engage with that older dog? So try to set it up. I know Brent talked about it is slim pickings. Facebook groups, dude. I found Facebook groups to be a huge success. So like, hey, I have this dog I would like to socialize him with, and everybody responds back, right?
that's
Everybody.
awesome.
Yeah. That to me is a big thing. We actually, for our company, have our own little Facebook group so our clients can communicate. Yeah, that was huge during COVID. There's one last thing, Brent, on dog to dog interaction. I'm not a huge fan, Brent, of doing dog to dog interactions on my neighborhood walk. And I'll tell you why. If I'm gonna do it on my walk, I'll do it at a particular green space where I want my dog to say, "This is our play area." But if I'm doing all my dog to dog interactions on every one of my neighborhood walks, I now have a dog who is seeking out to see other dogs because I wanna go there now.
Party time. Yeah.
Yeah, so you gotta keep that in mind. It's like, create separate times for it. And then lastly, if I have that overexcited dog, it's okay to say, "Hey, do you wanna go on a walk with me for 15 minutes with your dog before we allow the dogs to interact?" To kinda take a little bit of that piss and vinegar out of my dog, so when we do allow them to greet and meet each other, they're kinda bored with each other already. It's like, "Yeah, you don't mean all that much anymore." So use any type of training or tools to your advantage to bring your dog down or to bring your dog up to make it a little easier for your dog to not be a psycho.
Yeah, and that actually just made me think of something, and it's a principle we see in training all the time, but I think this is going to be good for the audience. You guys always have to make sure that we teach opposites, right? So, for example, if I take my dog to go for a play date, well, I'm teaching them play. Well, what's the opposite of play? Relaxation, right? So I need to start and end with relaxation. The middle is play. It's like this sandwich. So start with relaxation, then your dog earns play, then you can stop it. And then little by little, you start teaching your dog, okay, when we see dogs, it doesn't mean it's game time right away, right? The visual cue of the dog doesn't mean game time. When dad releases me and says I can go play, sweet. But because dad can give it to me, dad can also take it away. And I need to be okay with coping, being without the thing that I want, right? And that's part of patience development and impulse control work. We should probably do a whole episode on patience and impulse control.
Yeah, absolutely. You do wanna put it on cue. So everything is on your verbal word or your verbal command that I can greet, that I can interact, that I can do this. That's why it's so important for the prerequisites to be there in the first place so that you have control over it. But yeah, that's vital. They have to know when it's okay.
What else you want to go over?
Do you have any tips for people? Maybe we can bounce some ideas here. Different animals, we put that on the list of, like, socialization with other animals because I find it important and I think it's great. I ran into a situation, Brent, I told you I have 2 horses. Yesterday, I was on the farm. I don't know why, but my horse actually ran down my dog yesterday, like, chased him down.
Shit.
My dogs are so used to being around the horses, it wasn't that big of a deal. I couldn't tell what the I listen, I'll tell you what a dog is thinking. I cannot fucking tell you what a horse. I don't know if he was just pumped up and he wanted to go see him, but he just ran the dogs, like, to the fence. He was like, "Oh, I'm gonna run with you," and the dog snuck out of the fence. But what are some like, do you find any of that helpful? Is it
Yeah.
important for people?
Yeah, 100%. I think the common things like birds, chickens, cats,
Cats.
you know, even squirrels sometimes. So one thing that I've learned through my career is it's easier for you to socialize. So like if I have a dog and let's say he's predatory and he sees one cat, well, it's so easy for the dog to lock in on that one cat. Or let's say my dog sees one chicken. They're going to see that chicken and the prey drive, the prey drift is just going to kick in. And all of a sudden now that thing, I'm going to make you run, buddy, so I can chase you. But when we socialize dogs with other animals, if there's a bunch of chickens, it's actually easier for the dog to calm down around multiple chickens than it is just one chicken, right? Same thing with cats. If I have multiple cats, it's easier for me to teach my dog to relax and calm down. So exposing our dogs to different animals early on, again, just like with dogs, instead of your dog being primed to want to go play with the chicken, the dog might actually be primed to be like, I want to chase that chicken, you know? But either way, you're practicing impulse control because there will be a time you're on the hiking trail, your dog sees a bunny, and your dog's going to want to go after that bunny. Well, you need to have the ability to say, "Hey, buddy, we're neutral right now. We're not chasing and hunting bunnies." Same thing if you have chickens or if you have horses or whatever it might be. Like teaching the dogs to be comfortable and neutral and being able to have that on and off switch that we talked about with dogs.
Yeah, no, you brought up a question that I have for you,
Hmm.
not for anybody else, but let's say you live on a property and there's a squirrel out there. Do you give a shit if your dog kills a squirrel?
I don't know. I don't.
Yeah.
There's plenty of squirrels. That was
Yeah.
survival of the fittest. He didn't get up the tree fast enough, you know?
Yeah, no, but this brings me back to what you just said is as much as you don't mind your dog killing the squirrel, you also have the ability to stop your dog from killing the squirrel, and I think that's where it's important 'cause they need to understand when it's appropriate and when it's not. It's not appropriate, it's the neighbor's fucking cat. Right? It's like, that's not acceptable. But just so everybody's listening, I know this is gonna sound weird to some people. I also don't mind if my dogs kill animals, right? Like, I don't mind if they kill bunnies or if they kill squirrels or they kill groundhogs. I think I told you this, bro, the other couple weeks ago. Xena caught a deer.
What?
I didn't tell you this?
No.
Okay, so my dog Xena's sweetheart, going through a lot of health issues, but a great dog. About a month ago, while going through her health issues on a 6-day fast, we had a fire.
She was hungry.
Yeah, we're at a fire with all our friends and, just hanging out with the dogs on the farm, and all you hear is, "Ah," and
Oh,
Xena
no.
dude, she grabbed this deer by the throat, right?
Whoa.
First off, I have no idea how she saw I mean, she's fucking 9.5 years old.
Wow.
Grabs this deer by the throat, flips this thing in the air, and it's a yearling, right? It's a
Yeah, yeah,
younger deer, it's the same
yeah.
size as her. Flips it in the air, slams this thing on the ground, and then chases it the whole way off the farm. And, my buddy was like, "Dude, are you gonna let her do that?" "Yeah, I don't care," right? Obviously, I don't want her to get hurt, but I don't care. And if at one point I would've went, "Xena, I'll cut that shit out now or you're in trouble." Well, then that's where I care. When I say, "Hey, this is a limitation, don't do that." But for the most part, when I'm hiking with my dogs or if I'm on the farm, I kinda like that. I personally want my dog to live what
Yeah,
they
you
were
don't
meant.
wanna stifle them, for everything. However, I will add the caveat, I don't want them killing my chickens or my rabbits or my, if I am tending and I'm the shepherd over other animals that are under my care, that's part of the socialization, right? Like if I live a life where I have chickens and I have rabbits and I have things like that, I'm going to socialize my dog with those things so that they learn to leave them alone. If I have goats next door, I have sheep next door. So it's like we socialize with those animals all the time, to the point where if any of those got out, well, I don't want my dog's first reaction is to go fight him, So that's important to understand. If my dog kills the random squirrel or rabbit, yeah, I'm not going to get him in trouble or be mad at him. But they do need to know who family is and who family isn't.
Yeah, but they can distinguish that. Right?
Totally.
That's something that everyone needs. So as much as I want my dogs to hunt animals on the farm, my neighbors have 2 cats that are always out. They don't hunt those, right? Because from a young age, it does make it easier from a young age. We go over, we see that these are kittens. If you do cross a certain boundary, there are consequences for that. And they learn pretty quickly, okay, also the cat will fuck them up. But they learn pretty quickly that, hey, we can't do the same thing that we do with rabbits and squirrels with these cats.
Yes.
Because then I'm going to have a really pissed off neighbor.
Exactly. So yeah, man, I think ultimately with socialization, guys, these prerequisites to socialization are your bread and butter. You guys have to know who your dog is and how they think. You have to know how to read their body language. You have to have basic leash handling skills, and you need to have a system of correction, redirection, and rewards. And if you guys don't have those systems in place, you have to hire a dog trainer to teach you guys those things, because without the ability to coach and referee your dog, there is no actual socialization. A lot of times people just go into these socialization experiences to just see what happens. But always remember, guys, if you can't influence your dog, you're not actually socializing your dog for anything. You're just kind of seeing if they make the right choices, right?
You're praying.
You're praying. Yeah, you're just praying. And so if we want to ensure healthy, functional, comprehensive dogs, we got to do it with a game plan. We got to do it intentionally. Well, I really hope that you guys liked this episode. My name is Brent Labrada, and that guy is Vinny Soma. And we'll see you guys in the next episode of the Dog Owners Podcast. Peace.